Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. Joining us on the phones, Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. We'll start off with some of the guys who are running for president here from the state of Texas. Beto O'Rourke and Julian Castro. Matt, things aren't going well for either of those two guys anymore.
No, that's true. Castro was, widely considered to be one of the beneficiaries of that first night's debate. And he certainly got some attention for a few hours, but then the second night's debate really consumed any discussion of his performance. He raised, I think it was $2.8 million in the first quarter. 40% of that was in the 24 or 48 hours after the debate, so he would have been about $1 million without the debate. And his poll numbers, really haven't moved hardly at all. And he's at real risk, I think, of not qualifying for the fall debates in September and October unless something changes. Beto's numbers are even more concerning. I think I saw yesterday he was at 9th place in New Hampshire in a poll that was just released. His second quarter fundraising numbers were $3.6 million, but he spent over $5 million. So he's going backwards, and he continues to hire more and more people, growing his footprint. So, look, presidential campaigns end for one of two reasons. One, there's some type of kind of paralyzing controversy. But two, they really end when you run out of money. And I think we are moving to a point here, not in July because the debate participation is going to be pretty similar, but in the August and September, particularly in September, once the next round of debate participation is announced, we're moving to a time frame where you're going to see 5 to 10 Democratic candidates drop out. Yeah. If you're not in the fall debates, you're really not going to be seen as even existing to Democratic primary voters and to your donors. And so I think, look, Beto and Castro both are right on the edge. You've got to be at 2% in 4 polls, and you have to have 130,000 donors. Beto has that donor number, and I think Julian either has it or will get there. But the question's the polling. And they're both at 1 or 2% right now. They're right on the edge. So they have a lot riding on the July debate, which is next week.
Matt, I was thinking about it yesterday, and for Beto O'Rourke, you think about it, and if he had not run against Ted Cruz and obviously not run for president, he would most likely he'd be running for re-election right now for Congress and probably have a pretty safe seat, right?
Oh, yeah, very safe seat, yep.
And I mean, his political future at this point, other than commenting on CNN or MSNBC and maybe having a podcast somewhere, and skateboarding around, I don't see what his political future is. Maybe Castro still has a shot at that VP nod, but for Beto O'Rourke, I don't see any upside for the guy moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason he decided to run for U.S. Senate was twofold. I think one, he really liked the contrast with Cruz, and he thought Cruz was vulnerable, and to a certain extent that was a wise bet in the 2018 election cycle. The other reason, though, and the reason why he was really out of options is he basically committed to only serving 3 terms in Congress. He basically term limited himself. Now, certainly members of Congress violate their own term pledges all the time, but some of them do stick to it, and he decided to stick to it, and he deserves credit for that. But if you think about it, not only, Chad, would Beto still be in Congress in a safe seat in El Paso, he'd be in the majority. And he'd be in a position to be far more effective legislatively than he ever was when he was in the minority. So, yeah, it is puzzling that he would, let it all ride on the Cruz race, come up short, and then decide to let it all ride again on a presidential bid. This is not working out the way he thought it would. I imagine if you asked him honestly right now, he would probably say he regrets running for president. This is likely to get worse for him, I think, unless there's just some, unless he does really, really well in the July debates. I think his die is cast. On the other hand, what does he have to lose? Maybe you stay in all the way through Iowa, you try and do, town halls in all 99, counties, kind of replicate the Texas model that he used in the Senate race, and see if he can surprise people and finish 3rd or 4th and survive, for a couple more months. There still is a lot of time here. We got to be honest about that. There's 6 or 7 months till Iowa votes in February next year.
Yeah. Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, taking a look at statewide, Senator John Cornyn outraising MJ Hager, who is, I think most people expect, for her to be one of the top contenders on the Democrat side, though that may change. But outraising her by $1.5 million, what do you make of that?
Yeah, the head-to-head number is less important than the cash-on-hand number, and I tweeted this morning that Cornyn has a 15-to-1 cash-on-hand advantage, 9 million to 600,000. That's massive. Cornyn's working hard. He's raising money. He's traveling the state aggressively. He's got a great campaign team. He's doing everything he needs to do to take this cycle seriously and to perform at the level he needs to help the down-ballot Republican ticket. Hager's campaign remains a mystery to me. I don't really understand what they're doing. She goes days at a time without, saying anything or doing anything that's visible. I just simply do not understand what they're up to over there. And clearly, her entrance into this campaign hasn't scared anyone. You've had former Congressman on the Democratic side, Chris Bell, who was the Democratic nominee for governor in 2006, announced he's running. State Senator Royce West of Dallas is making an announcement in a couple weeks that he's likely to run. You have this progressive activist that's being recruited. I'm trying to remember if there's anyone else. Amanda Edwards, I think her name is Edwards, city council member from Houston, is looking at it. So, look, this is very good news for Cornyn, right? A very highly competitive, fractured Democratic primary for the Senate nomination helps him, makes it harder for all those candidates to raise money, makes it harder for the party to unify, and it increases the odds there will be a Democratic primary runoff, which would delay for, 6 or 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks even into May of next year, the ability for the nominee to raise general election funds. So it's striking to me how different this cycle is shaping up for Cornyn compared to the last cycle, how it shaped up for Cruz. They're literally 180 degrees different.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some national stuff. Obviously, the story that everyone's still talking about is the Trump versus the so-called squad. Matt, how I look at this is, and the reason why I did not like what the president tweeted, I really enjoyed the infighting. I was really getting a kick out of Nancy Pelosi and the establishment, if you will, House Democrats fighting Ocasio-Cortez and the squad. I think that'll pick back up in the future. I don't think these people will be united moving forward. But now we have the House is going to debate, a measure condemning President Trump and all this. He's kind of shifted that story, and politically, I just don't like it.
No, I agree with you entirely. I forget the exact words of the quote, but when your enemy is divided and fighting amongst itself, you sit back and let them continue doing that. And Democrats were divided last week. We saw that. We saw the back and forth between Pelosi and these four members. And it was honestly getting kind of ugly. Got to a point so bad that Trump was defending Pelosi.
Yeah,
which is hard to imagine. So injecting himself in the middle of that it was not helpful and not all that strategic. Now, I have heard a theory suggested that what Trump really wanted to do was highlight and raise the profile of these four members and make them sort of the face of the Democratic Party going forward and force the Democratic Party to rally around them and embrace them. And they certainly did that. It's possible that could have been a long-term strategy that may pay some dividends. I just think ultimately Trump's got to broaden out his support base. I know they're making an effort to they just started a Latinos for Trump coalition. They're starting a Women for Trump coalition today that Laura Trump, one of his daughter-in-laws, I think, is launching. So I know it's a goal of the campaign, but he's just got to be more careful and more disciplined and not give the other side these kind of easy victories going forward. There's enough to criticize about these four members of Congress and their views, which are absolutely radical, which are counter to, I think, the ideals of America, counter to our capitalistic system. And so I think there's enough there on substance to go after them that we don't need to go after, telling them to, quote, go back home. And keep in mind, and this has been said before, 3 of the 4 were born in America, so they have nowhere to go home, go back home to. And the 4th is a naturalized United States citizen. All 4 of them are U.S. citizens. I mean, the United States is their home. So we just have to be very careful about things like that. Clearly, the Democrats and the media are trying to make far too much of this. I saw Congressman Al Green, Democrat of Houston, is going to try to impeach Trump. I don't think you can be impeached over a tweet, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, they're going to keep pushing this, and it gives them a chance to go on offense at a time when they were on defense.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that Ocasio-Cortez, I'm not going to say that about Ilhan Omar or the rest, but Ocasio-Cortez is kind of the face of the party now. Maybe it's either her or Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, but one of those three are the face of the Democrat Party, at least in my opinion. And we've seen polling, Matt, that shows that if at least Ocasio-Cortez is the face of the party, that's not good for the Democrats, not good at all.
100%. And, Ocasio-Cortez is going to continue to say, ridiculous things, propose ideas that are, massively expensive and would grow government. She's just kind of your typical millennial, no real experience, doesn't really understand issues, just wants to go viral, doesn't really want to have an effect legislatively. Going after the speaker of your own party is not a way to be effective legislatively. But sure, I think to the extent she can continue to be a high-profile, leader in the party, I think that absolutely helps Republicans.
Yeah.
We need, Sanders, Warren, and AOC do not represent a majority of this country. And to the extent the Democratic Party can be defined by them, that will be very advantageous as a contrast for President Trump and his reelection.
Matt, tell people how they can sign up for your morning newsletter and also tell them about your podcast.
Yeah, the morning newsletter is called Must Read Texas. We take all the top news from around the state of Texas, put it into a clean, easy-to-read email, and deliver it by 9 a.m. every weekday morning. Over 3,000 Texans receive it. You can sign up for a free one-week trial at mustreadtexas.com. The podcast is called Mac on Politics, and we've done 144 episodes now. It's available on iTunes, on Google Play, on Stitcher, and on Spotify. The most recent episode is with veteran Democratic strategist Joe Trippi, and we talk all about the 2020 Democratic presidential race, some really amazing insights from him about the early states, who his surprise candidate could be in Iowa, all kinds of insight from him. So you can check that out anywhere you find a podcast.
All right, very good, Matt. As always, appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak, Republican strategist, Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.